30多岁的你还交朋友吗？
When a man reaches his 30s, I've noticed that making friends becomes increasingly difficult. Thinking back, in my younger years when I was 17 or 18 or just over 20, I was always afraid of being alone. At that time, whenever I went through a breakup, felt bored, or lonely, I could easily call a group of friends out for drinks and chatting. In those days, we mostly talked about trivial, irrelevant things, and sometimes even dirty jokes. Everyone sat together, laughing and joking, without a care in the world. Back then, friendships seemed pure, without needing to think too much, without considering mutual interests. Just gathering together made us happy. But now, having entered my 30s, the focus of life has shifted. Friends around me are gradually becoming fewer, and those I can drink with are even rarer. It's almost impossible to find someone willing to open up and have a deep connection. Looking back now, the loneliness I used to fear has surprisingly become a rare enjoyment. Solitude has become the norm, and I've even started to enjoy the time spent alone. I used to want lots of friends around, afraid of being alone, but now, I feel more at ease when I'm by myself. Loneliness is no longer something that makes me uneasy. Instead, it's a chance for peace and self-reflection. Nowadays, when people in their 30s gather to drink, the topics are no longer those trivial, boring matters. Instead, conversations revolve around making money, careers, or business. It seems that everyone has become more practical and purpose-driven. Interactions with others are more often based on a calculation of value. If you don't offer value to others in some way, people don't seem to form deep connections as easily as before. The pure friendships of the past seem to have gradually faded over time. Even though there are still a few people around who I can drink with, those who I can really have heart-to-heart talks about life with are very few. It seems like the emotional connection between people is growing weaker, with more focus on practical benefits. In our 30s, the motivations for socializing become clearer, unlike when we were teenagers, where conversations were light and casual with no ulterior motives. For me, friends are no longer as numerous as they used to be, and those I can truly connect with are very few. Perhaps this is just another state of life after 30. Many times, I find myself preferring to sit alone in my car, enjoying those moments of peace and relaxation. Do you still have friends in your 30s? I don't.
请你记住，成年人没有朋友。
Please remember, adults have no friends. After the age of 25, adults no longer have real friends or close confidants. Whether it's friendship or any other emotional relationship, it gradually turns into a more practical cooperative relationship. Relationships after 25 become very simple. For everyone you meet, as long as it doesn't involve your personal interests, there's no need to care about what they say. It's like when you go back to your hometown for the new year. As long as your relatives don't ask you for money, you don't need to refute what they say. The only focus of an adult's life is this: how to make money well. If this problem cannot be solved, no relationship will last, and there is no such thing as fate. Communication between adults basically revolves around how to make money. Any other topics are meaningless chatter. Although this may sound cold and realistic, this is the truth of the adult world.
说出来可能你们都不信，我表哥因8万块钱把我起诉了。
Maybe you'll find this hard to believe, but my cousin sued me for a mere 80,000 yuan. Yesterday, I received a call from a deliverman, saying he had a summons to deliver to me. At first, I thought it was some creditor coming after me, and I got nervous. However, when the deliverman mentioned the specific name, I was stunned. It turned out to be my own cousin, with whom I had grown up for over 40 years. It turns out that so-called family affection, in my most difficult time, can turn into a knife stabbed in my back. When I used to have money, my cousin was in trouble, and I always lent a hand without a second thought. When he said he needed money to build a house, I immediately sent 150,000 yuan to his home. Later, when his child got into a key middle school and they didn't have enough money for tuition, I didn't hesitate to give him another 100,000 yuan. Every spring festival or holiday, I gave red envelopes to my 2 nephews, and it was always 3,000 to 5,000 yuan each time. However, when my investments failed, and I ended up 1.08 million yuan in debt, falling into a dire situation, I borrowed 80,000 yuan from my cousin. To be honest, I never thought that this mere 80,000 yuan would become the reason he took me to court. Is this the return for all the unconditional help I gave before? Is this really what people mean when they talk about someone forgetting all the favors? Is this the blood is thicker than water family bond that everyone talks about? After this incident, I finally understood one truth. When you have no money, even dogs look down on you. Now I have nothing, but I don't intend to stay down. I just ask my creditors for a bit of time, and I will definitely get back on my feet, paying off every penny I owe. To the brothers watching this, if you, like me, are temporarily in debt, no matter what difficulties you face, don't give up. As long as we don't admit defeat, one day we will rise again. When we stand strong again, we can also become cold and heartless, cutting ties with anyone. Brothers, let's work hard to make money. Money not only gives us dignity, but it can also buy family bonds, friendships, and even love. When we get through the lows and rise again, no matter who offers us sweetness, we should never easily trust anyone again. Keep going.
其实很多人根本不需要那么多的朋友的。
As you grow older, you will gradually realize that most people don't really need that many friends, and you don't have the energy to maintain a large number of friendships. The focus of adult life is on how to make yourself live more easily and happily, and this usually comes down to two things. First, you need to have enough wealth. Secondly, your family needs to become more harmonious. As you become stronger, always remember, never open your heart too easily to anyone. Those who seem friendly to you often approach you with their own motives. In the adult world, interests always come first. Making too many friends whose values are inconsistent with yours will only make you exhausted and eventually lose yourself. If you don't want to suffer in complex interpersonal relationships, the only way is to never give your true heart. Many people's problem is that they waste their time on meaningless relationships. Remember, a mouse never thinks it's wrong to steal, a fly doesn't believe it's ugly, and a snake is never aware of its own venom. If your minds are not on the same wavelength, no matter how you communicate, it's all in vain. All relationships are not maintained by emotions or charisma, nor is it a contest of who is emotionally superior, but it depends on whether you have any value to be used. As long as you are willing to spend money to treat people, there will always be someone willing to dine with you. As the old saying goes, when you're poor, nobody asks about you in the bustling city. But when you're rich, you have distant relatives even in the deep mountains. In life, you can only see the true nature of human beings when you're really down and out. What you usually see is just what others want you to see. Learn to distinguish the truth, understand its meaning, and you'll be better able to navigate this complicated world.
你有没有被你最好的朋友伤害过？我有，而且伤得非常的深。
I was once deeply hurt by my best friend, and that pain is still hard to forget to this day. It all started after I had just settled down in Beijing. At that time, I felt that I was developing quite well, so I wanted to invite my best friend to come to Beijing too. Communication methods were not very advanced back then, and he only gave me one phone number, which wasn't even his home number. So I went through all kinds of ways to contact him and, after much effort, finally found him. He's from Jilin, and I said to him, "Come to Beijing. I'm living quite stably here now and developing well. Staying in your hometown farming doesn't have much of a future." At first, he was reluctant to come, but he eventually agreed and said he would treat me to a meal when he arrived. However, when he got to Beijing, he only had 2 yuan left on him, not even enough to buy a packet of instant noodles. From that day on, I treated him like my own younger brother, even better than I treated my real brother. I took care of his food and accommodation, found him a job, and did my best to help him. At that time, the company was selecting a department supervisor, and I specifically recommended him to the boss. The boss disagreed, thinking he was young and hot-headed, not mature enough in many aspects. But I insisted, saying that if he wasn't made the supervisor, I would quit. So, he naturally became the supervisor. We worked together in Beijing for 3 years, during which I even started dating a girlfriend. I remember one time, after an argument with my girlfriend, she was so angry that she said to me, "Do you think we're in a relationship? Is this a relationship between 2 people or 3 people? Why does your friend always show up, no matter the time or place, whenever we have a date?" Later, I left that company, not for any other reason but because of him. At that time, the project I was in charge of ended, and the boss asked me to collaborate with him on a new project. I agreed. One day, I opened the boss's office door and happened to overhear him telling the boss, "I don't want anyone involved in my project. I want to do it myself." When he saw me come in, he got up and left. At that moment, I decided to resign. I had originally just wanted to chat with the boss casually, but that led to my decision to leave. During the more than 3 years we were together in Beijing, I paid for almost all of our food, accommodation, and transportation. I still remember one year, his father was running a farming business and needed 5,000 yuan, but he only had 2,000 yuan on hand. I lent him 3,000 yuan to make up the difference. However, later on, when I found myself in financial trouble and urgently needed money, I didn't even mention the 3,000 yuan I had lent him earlier. I only asked him if he could lend me 1,000 yuan. He agreed and said he would send me the money on Monday. But when Monday came, I called him, and he didn't pick up. He also didn't reply to my messages. To this day, I still haven't received that 1,000 yuan, let alone the 3,000 yuan I lent him before. This incident had a huge impact on me, and from that moment on, I started to doubt the concept of a true friend. I began to believe that perhaps there's only interest between people, and no real friendship. I once said to another classmate, "There are no true friends, only real interests." That classmate resented me for this statement for at least 10 years. The next time I saw this friend was at a friend's gathering. His girlfriend sarcastically said to me, "Oh, Big Brother's doing well now, doesn't contact us, doesn't call, doesn't keep in touch." I didn't respond and kept silent. But in my heart, I thought, when I needed to borrow money from you, did you respond to me? Did you pick up my calls? Did you reply to my messages? From that moment, I deeply understood that it's not about how many friends you have. Having 1 or 2 truly reliable ones is enough.
我就已经被社会淘汰了。一，我几乎没有朋友。
Although I am not yet 40 years old, I feel like I am gradually being marginalized by society. I hardly have any friends. When I was young, I often hung out with friends, and we had great relationships. However, as time went on, the contact became less and less, and eventually, it almost stopped. Now, hardly anyone invites me out for meals, drinks, or fun. My daily life is pretty much just going to and from work, coming home to cook. After dinner, I don't go out either. I usually just watch TV, scroll through my phone, or play some games. My life is simply and monotonously cycling like this. Secondly, I hardly have any social activities. I always find excuses not to attend the dinners organized by colleagues. The office relationships are complicated, and everyone is scheming against each other, so it's hard to truly relax at these gatherings. I feel more comfortable just going home to eat. As for class reunions, I attended a few when I was younger, but later, when others invited me, I always politely declined. Now, no one even bothers to ask me anymore. Honestly, I don't think class reunions are that interesting. It's just eating, drinking, and bragging. Today you treat, tomorrow I treat. It's a complete waste of money. Instead of spending money on such boring gatherings, I'd rather save it for my family and children, which is more practical. Thirdly, I have little interest in visiting relatives. Apart from the required visits during the Spring Festival, I try to avoid going as much as possible at other times. Even when I do go, it's usually just to drop off gifts, sit for a short while, exchange a few polite words, and then find an excuse to leave. I never stay for meals at relatives' houses, because I feel it's a bother for them and myself. I'd rather go home to watch TV or sleep. Besides, relatives always like to pry into my income, job situation, or even ask for favors, and it's exhausting to deal with. I really don't want to deal with these trivial matters. Fourthly, I never try to curry favor with my bosses. I just honestly do my job. I only care about the tasks I'm responsible for, and I don't pay attention to other things. If a colleague asks me for help, I'll do it if I'm in a good mood, but if not, I'll refuse directly. To me, colleagues are just colleagues. They can't become real friends. As long as the work surface is acceptable, that's enough. Some colleagues especially like to take advantage of others. If you help them once, they'll come to you again next time, and they never appreciate it afterward. Fifthly, I never post on my moments, and I rarely check other people's moments. I don't feel like I have anything particularly worth sharing, and as for others' lives, I'm not interested in knowing. When people show off their happiness on moments, the likes or comments they receive may not even be sincere. If someone shares something sad, people might comfort them on the surface but laugh at them behind their back. I think there's no need to put your life out there for others to see. Do you think my lifestyle means I've been eliminated by society? Have I become disconnected from society? I'm not even 40 years old yet. Is there anyone else like me?
Have you ever noticed that as people reach middle age, they tend to have fewer and fewer friends? In fact, this phenomenon isn't limited to middle age. Starting from around the age of 26 or 27, many people's social circles begin to shrink gradually. Friends who were once inseparable start drifting apart, and some may even lose contact entirely. You might find it hard to believe, but those friends from the past, now when you meet them, even greeting them may feel awkward. Actually, this situation isn't just limited to friends. Even interactions with many relatives become less frequent. But there's no need to feel sad or lonely about this, because it's a common occurrence. Many people are going through the same changes. Friendships, in essence, are often temporary. The friends who can stay in touch and meet regularly after many years are actually quite rare. There are many reasons why people have fewer friends as they reach middle age. First, as we age, our energy gradually declines and life's trivial matters increase. Starting a family, raising children, taking care of elderly parents, these burdens make it hard for people to cope. Rushing around every day for various daily tasks, busy earning a living, time and space become extremely precious. Maintaining friendships requires not only time, but also energy and emotional investment. As an ordinary middle-aged person facing life's pressures, you often find yourself unable to manage these relationships. After turning 30, many people, having experienced various trials of life, begin to maturely reflect on their innermost selves and realize that they must learn to focus. Only by concentrating their limited energy on a few important things can they unleash greater strength. During this process, people begin to value more those who can provide emotional feedback or practical benefits, especially the latter. In fact, it's not just middle-aged people who are like this. When we were younger, we were also constantly searching for this feedback, but at that time, we often couldn't find the right direction. We followed our hearts in emotional matters, and making friends was relatively random, so naturally there were many friends around us. However, as the years pass, the passion gradually fades, life's pressures grow heavier, and by the time we reach middle age, our social circles inevitably shrink and we have fewer friends. Everyone is busy with their own lives, and the core of most social activities is no longer pure emotion but interests. Mutual benefit has become the main goal. This is understandable because the essence of life is about making choices. When we're young, we prioritize emotions. In middle age, we focus on interests. In old age, we pay more attention to moral obligations. This is the norm for most people's lives. Life is full of various choices and sacrifices. Many times, being able to leave each other alone and maintain a respectful distance is actually a rare form of courage and wisdom. Do you, sitting in front of your screen, still have many friends? Feel free to leave your comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support is really important to us, and we will continue to provide better content for you. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.